Welcome back to AI Splainer, the place where we make complex ideas simple. Today, we've got a wild story for you. It's about a young founder who came out of nowhere and promised to completely revolutionize an entire country's energy sector.
Yep, we're talking about Leandro Leviste, a name that's now tied to just massive ambition, but also just as much controversy. So how does a 20-year-old Yale dropout end up becoming the Philippines' youngest billionaire, and at the same time one of its most talked about figures? Well, let's get into it.
Okay, so first up, the solar disruptor. Look, before we can even touch the controversy, you've got to understand the story. Because man, it was a story that absolutely captivated a nation.
So picture this. It's 2013. Leandro Leviste is just 20 years old. He's at Yale, and he decides to drop out. Why? Well, he was totally inspired by what was happening in the US with companies like Tesla and SolarCity. He saw this massive opportunity.
So he starts this company, Solar Philippines, with this just incredibly bold goal. He wanted to make solar power cheaper than coal. And get this, without any help from the government, no subsidies. Now you have to understand, in a market that's been run by the same old family-owned conglomerates for decades, this was a crazy idea. It immediately painted him as this young, brilliant visionary.
And hey, for a while there, this wasn't just some pipe dream. His vision started to look like a billion-dollar promise, and believe me, investors were paying very close attention.
I mean, just look at how fast things moved. He starts the company in 2013, right? By 2021, he's taking it public on the stock exchange. We're talking less than a decade to go from a startup founder to the youngest CEO of a publicly listed company. It was an absolutely insane trajectory.
And when he cashed out, wow, he became the Philippines' youngest self-made billionaire. We're talking an estimated net worth of over 15 billion pesos. Just let that sink in for a second.
So what was driving this huge valuation? Well, it all came down to one single project, Terra Solar. And the plan here was not small. He was promising to build the world's largest solar farm, a massive 3,500 megawatt project with a price tag of, get this, 200 billion pesos. This was the crown jewel, the big promise. So, of course, the huge question is, what happened?
And this, right here, is where that incredible story starts to fall apart. Because when you look at the numbers, well, they tell a completely different story.
So on paper, things looked amazing. Solar Philippines had been awarded contracts to deliver a staggering 10,000 megawatts of renewable energy to the country. That is a massive amount of power.
But here's the reality check. By 2024, how much of that 10,000 megawatts had actually been delivered? Only about 2%. Just a tiny fraction of what was promised. So you've got this enormous gap between the big vision and what was actually getting done.
And eventually, the government had to step in. The Philippine Department of Energy ended up terminating half of Solar Philippines contracts. Why? Well, they cited huge delays and just a total failure to hit their project milestones.
And it didn't stop there. The company was reportedly hit with a 24 billion peso penalty. That's a huge fine. So the obvious question is, what on earth went wrong?
And this is when the critics started asking a really tough question, one that completely changes how you look at this whole story. So, if the company wasn't actually delivering megawatts, what was it selling? An analysis from Rappler put forward a really interesting idea, that the real product wasn't electricity at all. It was something you can't see or touch.
And that's this idea of monetizing permissions. Basically, it's the practice of taking regulatory confidence and political connections and turning them into a huge financial valuation all before a single thing is actually built. Now you have to remember, Leviste comes from a very powerful political family. His mother is Senator Lauren Legarda. So critics started arguing that what he was really selling to investors was the belief that he could get things done. He was turning that political confidence into billions in cash before a single one of his major projects was even finished.
Which brings us to our final section. Cashing out, getting in. This really is the final act of his business career, but it's also the beginning of his next one, and it kind of reveals what some people are now calling his signature playbook.
Okay, so analysts are calling this the Leviste playbook, and it goes something like this. Step 1, use your political confidence to lock down government contracts and land. Step 2, build up a gigantic valuation based on what you're going to do, not what you've done. Step 3, bring in a big brother partner, in this case, Meralco, someone with the deep pockets to actually build the thing. Step 4, Exit. Sell your controlling stake for billions in cash right at the peak of all that promise. And then finally, step 5, pivot to a whole new career in politics. It's really seen as this masterstroke of financial engineering. He got out at the perfect time and shifted all the massive risk of actually building the project onto Meralco and its shareholders.
And sure enough, in 2025, after he'd secured his fortune, Leandro Leviste was elected congressman of Batangas. He made that jump from the boardroom right to the ballot box, and he did it by launching this really aggressive anti-corruption campaign.
So that leaves us with the big question, right? What is his legacy? Is he a disruptor who made clean energy affordable by forcing the big guys to compete? Or is he a speculator who figured out how to monetize a system of political access, cashing out and leaving others to fulfill the promises?
What do you think? We really want to know. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you found this explainer useful, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit that like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe to AI Explainer for more deep dives just like this one. Thanks for watching.